So I withdrew everything I possibly had, sent it over, and then next day I got a call from a bank saying it was fraud. Now all the money is gone.
This episode is brought to you by Hardscaper.com. The Hardscaper mission is to empower industry professionals with the skills, inspiration, and confidence they need to take their businesses to new heights. Struggling with training programs for your team? Looking for helpful tips to build a better company? Subscribe today to gain access to hours of interactive on-demand Hardscape construction and business courses for free. Check out Hardscaper.com. You're listening to Hardscape Growth, a podcast for hungry professionals who want to grow their businesses and level up. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Hardscape Growth Show. I'm your host, Alex from TechnoBlock, and today I'm joined by a very special guest. His name is John Karpov. He's the president of Action Home Services, and I'm particularly excited to have him on the show because I met John a little while ago at an event in Charlotte, North Carolina, where he was telling his story on stage to about 400 contractors. And I found that story to be so inspirational. I said, I got to get this guy on the show, and we got to talk about his journey before building Action Home Services and then running it for the past 14 years. And he may be, we'll see if he's successful in his mission, but he may be the first contractor to ever build $1 trillion company, which would be astounding. So we're going to talk about that, all of that over the next 45 minutes here. So John, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your incredibly busy schedule to join me. You're coming to us live from your truck on the road. So let's dive into it.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you very much, Alex. It's a pleasure being on this show. So, I guess I'll tell you where the entire story started. So my name is John Karpov. I'm originally from Kazakhstan, so I immigrated to Canada when I was 17 years old. And I came here because I wanted to have a better life for myself and my future family. So I moved, started to study English. I didn't know it when I moved. I could understand a few phrases. After first couple months, I learned English, went to college, was studying construction project management and business project management. And about 3 months after I went in college, my parents called me, told me their financial situation changed. And after this, they said they can no longer support me, so I have to go back. So I really didn't want to go back, and I really wanted to stay. So I had to figure out how to make a lot of money really fast to keep up with my tuition fee. Mm-hmm. So after this, I found a job where I essentially needed to receive the money and withdraw them, send them overseas using cash money, which seemed to be a very legit and logical business to me. And I was getting paid commission on this. So working part-time. At 17 years old, it seemed to be legit and seemed to be everything is good. So I got first payment, it worked, got a second payment, it worked, got a third payment, money went on hold. Employer called me, told they need money urgently. I didn't want to lose the job, so I withdrew everything I possibly had, sent it over while the money were on hold. I withdrew my own money, so their deposit was on hold. I withdrew my own, and then next day I got a call from a bank saying it was fraud. Now all the money is gone. So I literally sent them everything I had. I was left with zero, and at this point I felt like I want to end my life. So I didn't want to go back. I felt pretty miserable being 17 alone. Not having any friends, family, anybody around me, nobody to support. So felt pretty bad. Called my girlfriend back then. Now she's my beautiful wife. So call her. Wanted to say bye. She somehow convinced me not to do anything stupid and continue pushing. So I went online and found another job. And the job was door-to-door sales of driveway sealing. So first, I've never been in sales in my life. Secondly, I didn't know what the word driveway sealing means. And I hopped on a bus, started driving there, and I'm from Toronto, so for anybody who doesn't know, outside of metropolitan of Toronto, there is a different suburbs in different cities. So once you cross a certain line, your transportation pass changes. So I had a pass to get me to a certain point. To get after, I need to pay extra. I didn't have money, so I was able to get on the second bus first time without paying. But I realized it's not going to happen on the way back. So I had no option but to get
you have nothing left. Like you have spent your last penny just trying to get to this job interview.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, well, I'm not gonna get back. And it was probably 30, 40 kilometers away from where I used to live. So I'm like, I don't want to walk. So I got a job, and I had to convince an employer to hire me in the spot. And essentially, I told him, yeah, I've been doing it my entire life. I know everything about driving sealing. I'm a pro. And I couldn't tell him that I don't know anything, because he would have sent me on training, and I couldn't afford to spend a day or two on training. I needed to make money right away. So I told him I know everything. So they hired me. He said, well, come back tomorrow. I said, no, 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 we're going to go now. Because I knew the crew was leaving now to do the job. And I'm like, I'm going to go with the guys. He said, yeah, but we didn't even do any training, like no onboarding. I said, I'm going to sign everything. Now let's go. So I convinced him. I got
So
up the street.
this is like those setups where like the crew shows up at the end of the street, you don't knock door to door, and you
You got it.
offer them the
You got it.
service, right? That's
Got
why
it.
that's why you had to go. You saw the crew was going, like, I got to go sell
Yeah,
these
yeah,
jobs now.
yeah. Yeah, so the way the crew
Okay.
used to work, there is a pickup truck, a trailer. They have equipment. There's no The company's on a much smaller scale, so they probably had like two pickup trucks, but there's no marketing. There's no pre-booked jobs. The job takes 30 minutes to complete. So you go on the street, you knock the door. Hopefully you sell something. You do the job right away. You go to a neighbor, to another neighbor, to another neighbor. But there's no like pre-booked appointments or anything like that. So we showed up on the street, and three guys, we just separated. We started knocking doors, and I was knocking doors trying to sell somebody driving ceiling. And this is where it gets interesting. I didn't know what the driving ceiling means. Like, I didn't know the translation of this word. This word doesn't exist in my language. Neither I've never seen a service like this. So for me, whether I was selling, so I actually thought that driveway stealing means something like stealing something on a roof. I thought I'm selling a product for a roof. I had no idea what the word driveway means. So I didn't know the translation of driveway. I didn't know it's, the area where you park your car at the front. So I thought I'm selling something on a roof, and driveway is some sort of a product. So I started knocking doors, and it was like an hour in, 2 hours in, 3 hours in, and some people don't answer. Some people say they're not interested. Um, I just went on and on and on, and probably at about 10 hours of door knocking, probably an hour six, I realized, okay, well, it's not going. I gotta speed up. It's gonna get dark soon. I need to sell. So I started running. So I started jogging a little bit and going faster and faster and faster. So probably by hour number 10, it was getting darker. I knocked the door and somebody agreed. I'm like, holy shit, really? You gonna agree? Wow. So they agreed. My connection didn't work, so I had to use their phone to call the owner of the company, tell them I got the address. They the company came in, the company where I used to work. They came in, they did the driveway sealing, and then I actually realized what I'm selling. So I figured out what I'm selling, and then I went to a neighbor, and I sold a neighbor, and then I went to another one, I sold another one, and then I sold like 8 or 9 on the same street by the end of the day, and then completed them all. So at that point of time, I got commission paid out for this. That was a really critical point for me. Is the job was commission, so there's no like an hourly pay. There's no guarantee. If you sell, you get paid. If you don't sell, there's nothing. So I desperately needed to sell. So got paid at the end of the day, and that was the biggest amount of money I've ever made in my single day at that point of time. But it was as much as I've made back home working in a month. So I made like $350 in a day, and that was the amount of money I was making in a month back in Kazakhstan. So I was like, unbelievable. Like, it's crazy. It's not possible. So I was going back really late, probably like 11, maybe midnight on the subway. So bus and the subway, and then I'm going back home, and I'm like, holy shit. And I used to live right in downtown Toronto, and these guys were like really far up north. And I used to drive, and I started crying. I'm like, oh, hell no, it's not going to happen again. I just got lucky somehow. So on a second day, I went back on the same job, and I'm going in subway again. And again, I'm crying. I'm like, shit, it's not going to happen again. Pulled myself together, started door knocking again, and then got another sale. And it was much. It took me probably 30 minutes on a second day. And I'm like, whoa, okay. And then it started, and then another one. So then on the second day, I've sold more than anyone else in their company. And then I got a bonus. So on the second day, I made more money than the first one. I'm like, wow. So I just continue doing this, and I was on full time in college. I think 3 or 4 times a week. So I would start it from morning till afternoon, finish all my homework, and every other day I would work. And usually the college would be 2 or 3 days, 3 or 4 days a week. So Saturdays, Sundays I'm
Mhm.
always off, and that's where the best days to do door knocking, anyways, because all the homeowners are home.
It's the homeowners at home.
Yeah, so every Saturday and Sunday I would start around 7 a.m. and would work till like 9 p.m. Uh, so it would be my Saturday, Sunday. And then the only time when I would have a day off is going to be if it rains. So if it doesn't rain, I'm working. And for me, very luckily, we didn't have much rain in that month. So I didn't have day off for like a month or maybe a month and a half. I was just going and doing nonstop. So me being really cheap, I was able to save up quite a bit of money because I
Mm-hmm.
literally didn't spend anything. I wouldn't eat lunch. I would eat oatmeal with water, done at home for breakfast with one banana, and in the evening I would eat frozen fish with rice and frozen vegetables. So I needed like $100 per month for all my food expenses. I was living with guys, so my rent expenses were really cheap. So I was able to save quite a bit of money doing this door-to-door sales. So then at one point of time, one day I've sold so much that they couldn't fulfill the orders in the same day. And then what happens is when they can't fulfill the orders, they don't pay you commission because they only pay you when they receive the payment. So at that
Mm.
point of time, I'm like, wow. So I worked my entire day, and you guys can't keep up with volume I'm selling, and it just doesn't make sense for me to continue anymore. So at that point of time, I'm like, I think I'm capable of doing it on my own. So I went online, found an equipment, uh, had all my savings, so I was able to use all of the savings, and I went in and bought a trailer with equipment. Now I didn't have a driver license. I never drove a vehicle in my life, and I couldn't afford to buy a vehicle. So I had a roommate, so I went to him and I said, hey, let's go and rent a U-Haul pickup truck. But he had a driver license.
Okay.
So we used his driver license. I paid for the rental. We rented the truck for a month. So we'll take a U-Haul truck. We went in, hooked up this. So he would drive around, and I would be doing door-to-door sales, and we would seal them. That was probably one of the first challenges running the business, is because I knew how to sell. I didn't know how to execute the work. Neither he didn't know it. Because I was doing sales.
You'd seen it happen, but
I
yeah.
seen it happen. I've never done it.
Yeah.
Right? It
Yeah.
seemed easy till I've tried it, and I'm like, well, we messed up the first driving, so we didn't get paid in the first one, and the driving turned out well at the end, but we had to redo it, and we did it, and essentially I just told the clients, right, we're not going to charge them. So then we ended up going in a parking lot, and we figured out, okay, well, now I have to practice. So we practiced in a parking lot. She sealed half of the parking lot, figured out how to do it, and we're like, okay, good. And then we went on for like this for a couple weeks. And then at one point of time, my friend didn't want to go to work. So it was a long weekend. And he said, no, I want to chill at home. I have friends, I have a party. And I'm like, yeah, it doesn't really align with my goals. So I need to work. So I jumped in a pickup truck without ever driving. I don't know if I'm supposed to say it on recordings, but anyways, I jumped in a pickup
I
truck.
think enough time has passed.
Yeah, jumped in a pickup truck, no driver license, never drove a vehicle in my life. First time driving a vehicle is a pickup truck with a trailer. So I hooked up the trailer, went on a highway, trailer disattached after 3 or 4 minutes on a highway. Get out of it, reattached it, continued driving. Didn't hit anybody, didn't kill anybody, didn't get to jail. So somehow just jumped on in the middle of the busiest highway in North America, and reattached the trailer and continued driving. And yeah, I think, and then probably somewhere around that time, a manager from the previous company where I worked called me. He found out that I opened the company. He didn't like the way things were running there, so he asked me if I can take him, and I said, yeah, that's great. And this guy knew how to do everything, so he came in on board and he started to do the actual driving sealing, like the actual work, and I did all the sales. So we would go out and we would do, and then I realized that he wants to work more, because when he joined me, I had I think 1 or 2 weeks off in college. We were just switching between semesters. But when the time passed, he wants to work full time. I can only work 4 days a week. So I realized, okay, well, let me just find more sales guys. So a couple other guys of the previous company called me. They were interested in joining. We were paying more commission here than the previous employer. So they came in on board, and we just started to do this for year one. We did the same thing for year two. I wasn't doing anything for HS at that point of time in the winter. I just used and I went in a construction job, and I worked in a hospital for interior renovation during the winter,
Okay.
and that was my essentially winter job for the year one. And that was a winter night job, so I would work from 9 p.m. till 4 a.m. Would go to bed at 5, wake up at 8, go to college. So sleep for 3 hours for 4 months was
Yeah.
pretty rough.
It's pretty
Uh,
rough. Yeah.
yeah, no, I would sleep in Saturday, Sunday, but Monday to Friday was pretty hard.
Yeah. It
Yeah,
works when you're 17, 18. It doesn't work anymore.
no, not anymore. Yeah, it worked back then. So
Yeah.
that's what I did at the second year. Then on the second year, we just started to get requests from the same clients for whom we were doing driveway sealing about small landscaping jobs. So somebody
Really?
wanted
So
flowers.
right away, the people
Yeah,
that you were.
people liked our work. We always stand behind our work, even from the day one. That was just one of my core principles. And people were just, hey, can you do like small flower? Can you do a small bush here? Can you guys
Yeah.
change a little bit of sod at the front? And we started doing those small things. And then eventually we got our first paver job. So somebody asked, can you change the walkway? And the walkway was 100 square feet of pavers at the front. And I said,
Yeah.
yeah, we can do it. I
Of
didn't know
course
how
you
to do
did.
it.
There's a
So I
pattern
didn't know how
here.
to do it.
Yeah.
So I had a friend who I met in college. So I called him, and I knew he just opened a landscaping company. And the guys, the partners with whom he opened, had like 6 or 7 years experience working in other company, and they were foremen. So they knew how to do everything. So
Mm-hmm.
I called them and I said, we've got a project. Are you interested in doing it together? We're just going to split all the profit. So they came in and we did the job together. So we finished all, the first job, 100 square feet. And then once every 2 weeks here and there, we're going to get a small repair job. We're going to get another 100 square feet. Then we get a patio, 100 square feet, 200 square feet. So we'd get so small jobs here and there. And then we started to get some other jobs like small fence, small gate replacements, post replacements, a little planting, sodding. So things just started to get in a mix of landscaping as well as driveway sealing. And all of those jobs essentially were knock the door, ask homeowner, do you want a driveway sealing? They would say no. And we would ask, is there anything else we can do on your property? Anything else we can help you with? Maybe you want to do this and this and this and this. And then here and there, once you do it for like 2 days nonstop, and if you do it from morning till night, you're gonna get one client who would say, "Yeah,
Yeah.
I've got a project." So that's how we went in for season number 2. And then in season number 3, I realized, okay, well, I'm getting a little bit sick and tired of doing door to door. Like it's getting really hard.
Okay.
It's also really challenging mentally because you have to produce work every single
It's a
day.
lot of pressure. Yeah.
It's a lot of pressures. There's no guaranteed schedule. There's no guaranteed work. You don't have anything pre-booked, which means if
Mm-hmm.
I don't sell anything today, if I get sick, I know there's no work for me or my guys tomorrow at all. So I didn't want to be as dependable. I wanted to know that I have enough work for a week or maybe 2 weeks. I wanted to have a little bit of the security. So I realized that landscaping would have a bit of more potential in that case. And we just started to transition and getting more of a bigger landscaping jobs by doing door to door as well. So clients wanted like a 400 square feet patio now, 500 square feet patio. Somebody wanted a 500 square feet driveway. So the jobs were getting bigger and bigger.
Even still, it's selling door to door,
Oh yeah,
400, 500 square foot patios.
oh yeah. I can't remember now what was the biggest job I've ever sold doing door to door, but it was pretty large. It's pretty
Yeah.
large. So we would.
Were you surprised with how big some of these projects started to get going door to door? That people are like, yeah, actually, I did want to redo my whole backyard. You show up right at the right time. Like, is that pretty much what you encountered?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that I was surprised because by that time I'm kind of got used to it. Like I just
Okay.
knew that once you try hard enough and you knock X amount of doors, somebody's gonna say yes. So all I cared about is getting a fast yes to fast no as many times as possible, because I knew that 100 no's eventually is going to lead me to one yes. And I heard a lot of no's. Like, I would
Oh, for
knock
sure.
several
Totally.
couple of hundred doors a day, and there would be a day where, in 2 days we wouldn't sell any landscaping job. But that's why it was great. Like driveway sealing, we would sell here and there. And now there is a landscaping job, then we're gonna stop selling driveway sealing. We would go in and sell a landscaping job. Or if I know I have a really great day tomorrow, it's like full sun, Saturday and Sunday, I wouldn't schedule my landscaping job on that day. I would schedule landscaping job 2 days later or 3 days later. So I try to schedule landscaping job always on weekdays. It's harder to sell driveway sealing on those days, and
Yeah.
driveway sealing is great for Saturday and Sunday. So
Yeah.
we were like doing a mix of both, and then in year three, I realized it's just getting really hard to do both. It's getting really really hard to manage.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, okay, well, let's just get into landscaping. So I called my friend. I told him that I'm getting out of the driveway sealing business. I offered him to buy all the equipment I had, and I told him I'm going to teach you everything how to do it, and you can take over. And the idea was he's just going to pitch in for marketing for driveway sealing. And at that point, we didn't spend any money. So I told him, well, the marketing is the way to go. Otherwise, you have to constantly knock doors. So the idea was he's going to stay at the same brand, and he will be doing driveway sealing and pitching in for marketing for that portion of the business, as it still continued to grow the same brand. And I would be doing everything related for landscaping. So that's
When
how
you
we
say
started.
when you say pitching in on marketing, what
Mhm.
does that mean?
The first thing we did is build a website. So I built the
Okay.
first website myself. Just yeah, using it was the company called Wix.com, a website,
Yep.
and then I
Yeah. Yeah.
switched it over to. Then I realized it wasn't as good at that point, so I figured out during the winter how to do WordPress. So I built a WordPress website, and that's why our website sucks now. It's because it was originally built by me. Uh,
It's not that bad actually, but yeah.
yeah, well, we did some
Yeah.
changes over the years, of course,
Yeah.
but
Give it a
Uh,
facelift and stuff,
yeah,
but
essentially, he was just helping was a minor cost at the very beginning, and then that's how the Action Services started was landscaping world. And you also mentioned 14 years now. We've been around for 10, so
10. Okay.
it's 2 years of driveway sealing, and this is our eighth season of doing landscaping.
Of doing landscape. Okay. And so today the company is how many people and how many projects do you complete a year?
Uh, how many people? So overall, including all, so we have a lot of guys who are semi subs. So they would be doing separate projects for, let's say, gas and electrical and plumber, but they work with us almost on a full time basis. So we just do so much work that we have certain gas guys and electricians who work full time almost here. We just don't want them to be fully employed. Same
Mm-hmm.
thing with some of the roofers and some of the pavers. Probably say we're a little bit over 100, so probably 120. I never count. I just don't know.
Okay. So somewhere 100 to 120 people
Yep.
working for Action Home Services.
Yeah.
And you've diversified the services to include everything I rattled off before. So there's woodworking, there's pools, there's landscaping, there's paving, there's commercial stuff, there's home renovations like front porches and
Yep.
additions and cutouts of basements and all that kind of stuff.
We
And
got it.
basically, it's just you built that experience through doing door to door to door to door to door. Can I seal the driveway? No. Can I do something else? I need help with this. Yeah, I can do that, and then figure out how to do it. And once you do it a couple times, like, yeah, we can offer this service confidently now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's essentially that's exactly how we scale the business. Is we're doing services. A lot of things, once you know how to do certain things, the other ones like the construction is all somewhat related.
Mm-hmm.
But then when we started landscaping, immediately in the first year, I found a foreman who had 30 years of experience in
Okay.
construction. So I immediately hired a guy who knew how to build a house from the ground up. So whether we would take on a roofing job, he knew how to do it.
He gets it, yeah.
Yeah, he used to build houses, and he's from Europe, so he knew how to build houses there. Here in Canada, he had like 15 or 20 years of experience doing landscaping.
Okay.
The guy was in his 50s or 60s when he joined us, so he had a lot of experience. He could operate any piece of equipment. So when we would take on the job, we knew that foreman is capable of delivering anything.
So what are some of the I'm curious because I've been making notes of your talking, but like what are some of the key lessons in those first few years that you learned either the right way or the hard way, but you learned, and those are the things that kind of became the foundational pieces in your mind?
I'll probably say that not giving up, right? That's the big one.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be rough days. There's going to be days when things will go wrong. There's going to be days when you're going to want to give up. And the truth is, I had those days so many times, still have them. Uh, it's just the way the life works, right? There's going to be good days and bad days.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the key lessons is definitely don't give up. If I would have gave up on my life at that time when somebody scammed me, I would never be here, and I would have never had so many guys working with me, and would have never done so many projects. And I could have ended my life back then, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't. Then ever since, I just don't give up.
Yeah. Well, I think, yeah, that's kind of a big piece there. Once you decide to keep persevering when it's the hardest time of your life, everything else doesn't seem as hard anymore.
Yeah.
You can overcome that. You can overcome anything. Other things that I saw though, like the work ethic, obviously is a major component, and there's the not giving up, but there's the persistence is not exactly the same as not giving up, and the
Mm-hmm.
door-to-door sales is very hard. Mentally, it's literally doors being slammed in your face,
Mm-hmm.
day after day after day. So having the guts to keep pursuing that, and then taking on the different work, and just saying yes, committing, and then getting creative to how you can find the solution. Some people might say that, like, it's not right that you're learning how to do the job on someone else's dollar. How would
Mm-hmm.
you respond to that?
Why is it not right? I would just ask why. Why? What's the problem with it?
Well, I mean, it's not necessarily my opinion, but I've heard people who get upset when you have like new contractors who take on work that they've never taken on before, because there is a greater risk of mistakes, there's a greater risk of liability, there's a greater risk of the job not being built properly, and nobody knows until later. There could be safety reasons. So yeah, like what steps did you take? And I love the practicing in the parking lot, by the way. To
Yeah.
me, that showed that's one of the things that for me, I wouldn't look at that question as being like a real problem with what you did, because you did the first one, you realized like, this isn't good. You didn't charge the customer, and then you went and practiced in a parking lot all day until you got good at it. That's one of the big things that I feel doesn't happen in those scenarios. People go and they practice on customers. They don't practice independently. So I think that's kind of the rebuttal to that argument, I guess. But I think more importantly, the question that I have is a financial one with that
Mm-hmm.
stuff. When you take on projects you've never done before, how the hell do you quote it?
Gut feelings. So we've done a lot of work over the years where we underestimated the job, and
Yeah.
when you've got this low bidder, for many years was us, right?
Yeah.
We would estimate the job and we wouldn't bid low. We just didn't know how to accurately quote it, and then
You
we would
bid as well as you thought you could.
yeah, to the best of our abilities, you bid the job, and then at the end of the day, you don't know. It's if you think of it, how would somebody would estimate what it costs to build a rocket which would go to Mars if their human Earth never had one?
Mm-hmm.
It didn't exist. So you could calculate, but at the end of the day, any estimate is a calculated guess. All you're doing is you're guessing a number, and you're guessing the cost of materials and labor, because there are things outside of your control which could still change the estimate.
Mm-hmm.
That's why the word exists. It's an estimate, and you're doing calculations to guess this number as much as possible. So every time we were to bid the job, we would estimate how long it's going to take, and it would estimate the material cost. But sometimes it's going to be off, because we would be missing this component and this component and this labor cost and this labor cost and this material needed to be done this way. And as you start doing things right, like there is for all of our structural work, we've got engineers. So we would have an engineering drawing. So we're going to look at the drawing. We're going to figure out what needs to be done as per drawing. But as you know, sometimes engineer may screw up their drawings too. And then inspector comes in and they tell you, well, you're missing this on a drawing. And even though engineers stamp it and they went to school for it, we're all human beings.
Mm-hmm.
So then it's a question of us being ethical and observing the cost and not pushing this cost towards a customer. And it happens. It's a part of the business. It happened to us, still happens now.
So, especially in the beginning, I would assume that happened more often than it does now.
Mhm.
How were you able to absorb that so often? You mentioned being very diligent in saving, living a
Yeah.
very cheap lifestyle, so that gives you a bit of a cushion. But uh, is that basically the key to it?
Well, I had days when I worked for $3 or $4 an hour for 2 weeks. Like I would essentially be the guy on the job, right? At the
Mm-hmm.
first few years of the company, I was in fields every single day, so I would work from Monday to Sunday. My working hours didn't change in us probably till now. So when you have one person who's going to work 80 hours or to 100 hours a week and not getting paid at all, it's a high cost, right? So if you're not paying anybody this amount of money, then you can absorb a lot of it. So we would obviously pay all our guys, would pay the material, but there were days when there's going to be nothing left, or we're going to go negative.
Yeah.
So we had those cases for, like it was quite frequently in the first few years. And at the end of the day is as long as you win more times than you lose, that's all that mattered. So if it happened on one job, I'm gonna hopefully do a little bit better in the other job. And the truth is, the projects which we were doing at the beginnings were shorter. So if I would underestimate a job, and if you underestimate the job, and it's instead of 4 days, it's gonna take you five, you lost a day. If you're gonna underestimate the job instead of 4 months, and it's gonna take you 6 months, you've got a big problem.
Yeah.
So for us, a lot of jobs were on a smaller scale. So there were 2, 3, 4 days jobs. So if you're going to be short, it's not going to destroy the business. And as the time went by, we just were adapting and learning and doing everything as much as possible.
So one of the things that you mentioned when we were in Charlotte, you had drawn your growth curve,
Yeah.
and I remember it because it was a pretty steep growth curve. If I remember correctly, it was something like you averaged 45% growth annually over the last 8 years. Is that right?
49.
49%.
Yeah.
So in doing that, you mentioned that key foreman that you got in the beginning that had a ton of experience. Who are some of the other key people early on that you had to add that could sustain that kind of growth? Because that's insane. And you can work 80 hours, you can work 120 hours a week. You're still not going to achieve that kind of growth on your own. So you had to build a team.
So it went in stages. So as the business scales, you're achieving what's called we call it a break point or breakthrough. So at certain size, the way you used to do things is not going to work anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So this actually exists in any industry and any business. And every single business is going to have different revenue cap where things will no longer work. So at the beginning, we just needed more foremans and first foreman, second foreman, third foreman. And then by the time we had 3 crews running, we needed a driver. That was the first position because I couldn't keep up with all the driving estimates and everything myself. So I needed to have somebody who would be delivering materials and moving things around between the projects. So we needed a driver, and after a driver, we probably at crew number 6 or 7, we realized, okay, well, now we need somebody like a part-time mechanic. And then at the same time, we needed somebody doing all the paperwork. So I used to do all the paperwork myself, and then my wife would help me out here and there. And then at one point, I needed so much help that I said, okay, well, you got to work. At the beginning, it's actually interesting. I told her, please join my company. We're going to work together. It's going to be great. You're only going to work 20 hours per week. And because you're going to help me so much, I'm going to be at home at 5, and we're going to spend the evening together. Never happened. Wasn't even once. She wasn't working 20 hours a week. I was never home at 5 o'clock. So we just worked more. She observed a lot of this office admin work. And then eventually she couldn't absorb all of it. And then then I couldn't keep up with sales. I needed part-time salespeople. And then I needed full-time salespeople. And then I needed part-time designers. And then I needed full-time designers. And then I couldn't manage all the jobs. And I needed part-time project manager. Then I needed a full-time project manager. So as the company scales, the way it works is the problems, they don't increase, they multiply. So if you have a problem at a job, as the company gets bigger, the problem will multiply much faster than the company. And somebody needs to deal with those problems. And as the company scales, unless you already have the experience scaling the businesses, you would constantly be dealing with fires unless you know how to prepare things ahead of time and plan accordingly and have the systems in place and processes in place and softwares. And with me, it's other than not knowing the landscaping portion of the work, I didn't know how to run the business.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know how to scale business. I never worked in a business. I never worked in any corporation, neither I didn't have any corporate education, understanding how to get to a business of that size. So after a certain time, any business, regardless whether you're selling donuts or you have a car wash or you use car sales or it's a manufacturing business, the core business principles become the same. So at a certain scale, you still need to have finance team. You need to have operations. You need to have some sort of a people and culture, or you can call it HR. You have to have certain business principles and departments who are going to continue help you to scale the company and have the structured processes.
So that basically, it's not necessarily the key individuals. It's identifying the key functions of the business that you need to delegate so that they can have a very focused view on it, so that they can not only handle the fires as they come up, but they can be anticipatory of future fires and build out the systems and the processes and the training and whatever is necessary to make sure, because when it's their only job, they don't want to deal with that shit, just like you don't either. But they have the bandwidth to be able to focus on that thing and make it better. And that's the key unlock. But you need to be able to generate enough revenue to bring these people on, which from a sales standpoint, you obviously have that skill because you practiced it. You definitely got the reps in. Now that you've added these different salespeople, what has that actually before now that you have, when you started hiring salespeople, what was your experience like? Because you said you started part-time and then it grew to a point where they were full-time, but how do you find a part-time salesperson, and what arrangement do you need to make where it actually works? Because I've met plenty of people that have tried and failed and never want to go back. They don't want to try again.
First, I got to comment. I think you answered the question much better than I did. So,
it's okay. That's what I listened to what you say, and then I reframe it.
It was really, really good answer. Yeah. So thank you for doing it.
It's lessons that I learned too, right? Like I have one department, I have one set of people, and we execute certain things. But when you put someone responsible, like, I don't want to handle this. This is your problem now. And they have all day to figure out how to solve the problem, and you only had 30 seconds, like, they'll do a better job. They will every time. Even if you're a control freak, even if you're a perfectionist, they're still going to do a better job than you.
100%.
So that's I'm very familiar with that one. That's a lesson I still get reminded of every day.
A task done by 80% as good as you can do it by someone else is 100% better than doing it yourself. That's
100%. Yeah.
It's a quote from Dan Martell.
I'm looking for his book. I think it's on my bookshelf at home, but yeah, it's 100% true that.
So in terms of salespeople, to be honest, it wasn't so hard for me because that's how the company started. A lot of landscapers start from the field, so they have experience doing the job. I had the experience doing the sales, and yes, it wasn't in landscaping, but I knew how to do it. So because I did it for such a big volume of door to door, I knew the scripts. I knew how to speak with clients. So when the first person came in, I did a few appointments with him, and then I told him, "You're on your own." And then because it was part-time, he did it in the evenings, and then it just naturally it started to happen more and more. So the same person who was doing our sales at the beginning is the same person who used to do a door-to-door driveway sealing with me.
Okay.
Left, work somewhere else. He came back, and then this guy left, and then our next person came in, and he's our sales director right now, and he was doing field work during the day, sales during the evenings. Then he went and worked. Then he went to study full time, and he worked part time with us doing sales. So it was just a bit of transition, and then eventually I just told him, "I'll just do sales full time." So he started doing sales full time, and then we brought a second person doing sales full time, and then we brought a third person, and then a fourth person.
But how do you handle like the quoting and everything? Like, you know your numbers.
Yeah.
Were you able to share? Like, did you have enough documented information? Like, listen, this is our production rate. So if you're quoting a 400 square foot patio, it needs to be between this and this. And like, how much preparation, how much did you hand over to them Because it's one thing to say, like, come with me, we'll sell some together, then you're on your own. But
Yeah.
you still got to give him something. Otherwise, he's gonna undersell your costs.
Great question. So at the beginning, I hand over zero to them, like nothing.
Okay.
I was really horrible at training, still pretty horrible, but we're getting better now. So at the beginning, they just took pictures, took dimensions, sent it over to me. I would give them a price, I'll give it to a client.
Okay.
And then it went on like this for a while, and then eventually I realized, okay, it's not scalable anymore.
No.
I gotta create a process. So I need a process. And I love processes. I'm a big process guy.
Yeah.
I love processes. I love standard operating procedures. I love the processes. I like rules. That's what makes companies scalable. So processes either make or break companies. So we create a process. We create a price list with approximate ranges, approximate prices, approximate materials. And then we still have it for a lot of our services. Obviously, it ranges based on service, type of material and stuff. But it's probably, now it's a book. It's about 100 pages long.
Wow.
So you could quote entire house construction with this book.
But that's the key. That's right there. But you said it. I couldn't say it better. Like, if you want to scale a business, if you want to get things off of your plate and put them onto someone else's, you need to have processes. You need to have standard operating procedures. You need to have documentation, because you could hire someone, you could train them. It'll take them 5 years before they can do what you need them to do in 5 days.
Yeah.
And the gap is that stuff. So I alluded at the beginning to the fact that you said you wanted to bring your business to $1 trillion. We just talked about scaling, so let's segue to that real quick.
Sure.
How, I try not to swear on the show, but how the heck are you going to do that? Where are you now, and how long is it going to take to get there, and how the heck are you going to do it?
Well, the world is about to change. AI is coming in, right?
Mm-hmm.
So things are about to become more scalable than they ever were. So the big thing for me is whenever we create a process or anything, it's got to be scalable. So any software we use, we don't look for a software which is going to work for us for a year or 2 years. We'll look at amount of transactions the software can run. We looked at a lot of, I'll give you an example. The CRM system which we run, when we're choosing this, one page can run 1 billion active transactions. So it's that much of scalability we're looking for one page, and the software can have about 100 million pages. So we're talking like trillions and trillions and trillions of data which could transfer. So it's very important for us. And that's not how we choose everything, but a lot of things when we choose is, it's scalability. So you got to create a process, got to make sure it's scalable, and then you have to diversify your services, because you can grow horizontally, you can grow vertically. So we're doing a combination of both. So you could be in construction industry, but then you could get into everything related to construction. So we own a separate company for bin rentals. We own a separate wholesale supply of landscaping products. So we sell geotextile, fabric, trucks for equipment. So that's another way. So when I'm saying about the numbers, doesn't necessarily mean it's in landscaping alone. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a much larger size, because to get to that size, you got to be everywhere. You got to be able to do a lot of things.
Yeah. But I like that vision. But I think the key that stands out to me with what you just said is, when you're making decisions, they're not decisions for today. They're decisions with the end in mind. Yep. So when you have that very big, audacious goal that you really believe in, and that's your mission, then you start making decisions with that in mind all the time.
Yep.
When you go to hire somebody, let's say you're going to hire a salesperson, is this salesperson going to be able to sell millions of dollars of work for me, or hundreds of thousands of dollars of work for me? They may cost more, but if it's getting you towards your goal faster, or at least in the time frame that you're aiming to do so, well, then you need to think twice about that investment, because it starts to make a lot more sense, even though the price tag may be higher than you thought. Mm-hmm. So then if the price tag is higher than you thought, what other adjustments do you need to do? Because like you just said, when you're talking about estimates, it's kind of the same thing, I guess, right? You're setting that goal, you're setting those timelines, you're setting those milestones for your journey to that ultimate end game. But along the way, you're going to have to adapt. And sometimes you're going to have underestimated the amount of work, the amount of personnel, and sometimes you're going to have overestimated the amount of work and personnel. So what's something and we can wrap on this as like kind of the last piece of advice, but what's something that you try to keep in mind as you're navigating that? Because you're obviously a very ambitious and driven individual. You've accomplished a lot in a short amount of time, but you're still on the ground level compared to where you want to go. So that means that you're going to make a lot of mistakes along the way as you're going. So how do you keep a good head on your shoulders and keep yourself on the right track?
Probably trying not to kill myself for me making mistakes. As you said, I do a lot of mistakes, and when mistakes are done by other people, it's much easier for me to let them go. But I hate making mistakes myself, so it's trying not to kill myself for me being wrong. And it's actually accepting mistakes as a learning curve and understanding that you're doing it first time and you can't get it right from first time. Things will go wrong, and it's how you adapt and what's learning you take. And my personality is analyzer, so whenever there's a mistake, it's just going to be long conversations, whether it's myself or people around me, and we're going to dive in and figure out what happened. And I'm going to jump off topic. We have a project manager call, which happens every single day at 5:00, and it starts, which fuck-ups did we have today? So we talk about what went wrong, and it could be everything related to software, estimate, design, a material order, crews being late, or neighbor getting pissed on something, like everything. And then once you have this culture of continuous improvement in mind, and that's in the blood of everybody, and you're saying everybody that it is okay that you're going to make a mistake, it's how we're going to fix it, and how do we make sure that we're now going to have a process so that mistakes would not happen, is what really dictates the scalability. Is mistakes will happen, it's how do you prevent them from happening again on a larger scale of organization, so a person in another department does not make the same mistake.
That's good. I think that sums it up right there, though, is being able to be transparent, face the mistakes, and understand like they're mistakes. We learn from them, and the lessons get translated into processes, so the company doesn't make the mistakes anymore, not just the individual. That's what helps the company continue to grow and stops you from ripping your hair out every time it happens. It just stops happening. So 100%. I think it's very, very, very valuable advice and a great insight. John, if anybody wants to reach out to you, or they like this episode, they like what you have to say, or maybe they want to work for Action Home Services, what's the best way to reach you?
Probably send us a DM on Instagram. Sometimes I check some of the messages, but we have a team monitoring this all the time. So if you're going to try to reach out to me, somebody's definitely going to get back to you, and then we can get in touch.
I want to thank you again for taking the time to share your journey with us and share some of those insights. And looking forward to seeing what you accomplish over the next few years. You've done great things, and it's very exciting to see someone so young and hungry and driven and passionate about building a great business. And having met some of the people from your organization as well, you're doing great things, and you should be very proud of what you've accomplished. And I'm a big fan, and I'm just going to keep watching you go.
Thank you.
All right. Awesome. Well, that's it, everyone, for this episode of the Hardscape Growth Show. Thank you very much for joining us. And until next time, work hard, pave harder, and we'll see you on the next episode. You've been listening to Hardscape Growth, a podcast for hungry professionals who want to grow their businesses and level up. Each episode is all about taking the next step in running your business. So make sure you never miss a show by subscribing on your favorite podcast player. And if you're finding this information to be useful, help others in your position discover us by giving us a star rating and leaving a comment. We'll see you next week.